Good evening and welcome to the May 11th, 2023 regular meeting of San Diego Community Powers Community Advisory Committee. My name is Eddie Price. I'm the chair of the Community Advisory Committee and representative for the city of San Diego. Welcome to the members of the public, community, power staff, and our committee members joining us in person and online today. I want to thank the San Diego Community Power staff for making this in-person meeting possible, and for the city of San Diego for accommodating us today in this glorious room. I will now call the May 11th regular meeting of the Community Advisory Committee of San Diego Community Power to order. Megan, will you please call the roll?
Before I take roll, I'm going to need committee member Hammond just to announce how she's attending virtually and the reason why, and if there's anyone in the room with her.
And I, Ms. Hammond, I just emailed this statement to you.
I have it.
For the reason.
Thank you, Nick. I am participating in today's meeting remotely. It's unmuted. I'm unmuted.
Oh, there we go.
I can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
That's weird. Okay, I didn't do anything, but good. All right, good evening. I'm participating in today's meeting remotely under recent amendments to the Brown Act due to childcare needs that require me to participate remotely. There is not anyone else in my room. There is my dog. Hopefully you don't hear him. And yeah, thank you. Looking forward to a productive meeting.
Thank you. I'll now take.
And I will just note Matthew Vasilakis is also participating remotely today. I'm not sure if everyone was aware of that. So
Nobody did. Just start off with our pledge of allegiance. Then Bomo.
Sorry, just one moment.
and I see Peter's hand is raised, so I'm not sure if Peter's trying to participate remotely as well.
I'm promoting Peter to panelist right now, but due to the new changes in law, people who are participating virtually need to either fall under the just cause provision of AB 2449 or which is it's family care. Sorry, we're looking up the exact definition of the just cause. And then there's also the emergency circumstances. But there are limited usage or number of times you can use that. So let me promote Matthew Vasilakis too, so we can.
So if other than member Hammond are online and seeking to participate remotely, they can only do it under the recent Brown Act amendments. And for just cause, that means a childcare caregiving need of a close family member, a contagious illness that prevents the member from attending in person, a need related to a physical or mental disability, or travel while on official business of SDCP or another state or local agency. And then otherwise, if there are emergency circumstances, meaning a physical or family medical emergency that's preventing you from attending in person.
Can I be recognized?
Yes, does your
Yeah,
purpose?
can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
All right. I had eye surgery today. And so I'm not sure I'm even gonna stay with you since I really can't see the screen. I had one surgery last week on my right eye and today I had the left eye. I'm gonna try to hang in there a little while at least to get the ad hoc committee assignments, but I really can't see the screen. So I'm participating remotely.
Okay, you're remotely, and that would fall under the just cause of AB 2449 as well.
Thank you.
So we'll have you as well. And I tried to promote Matthew Vasilakis, but
Mr. Anderson, can you just confirm if there's anybody 18 or older
thank you.
else in the room with you?
Not in the room, no.
Okay, thank you.
and I'm trying to Matthew, are you able to hear us?
Yes, no, I'll participate in observation mode. I don't need to be promoted as a panelist today. I'll just observe.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I will now take roll. Committee member Emerson,
Present.
committee member Nepo Messena,
Present.
committee member Anderson,
Present.
Committee member Webb,
Present.
committee member Hammond,
Present.
committee member Johns,
Present.
committee member Harris, committee member Caceres,
Present.
committee members Schofield, committee members Sclafani,
Present.
committee member Vasilakis, and then vice chair Castaneda. Present. And chair Price.
Here,
We have a quorum.
thank you. Committee member Larry, you want to do the pledge of allegiance, please?
Oh, I'll do it.
Okay.
We can please stand. Your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Would like to take a brief moment to provide a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the land of the original inhabitants of the greater San Diego region. A land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to create meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. We'd like to take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that were the traditional lands of the Kumeyaay. Thank you.
Thank you for including that.
First up on the agenda is special presentations and introduction. So I would like to welcome the newest member of our Community Advisory Committee, Leah, who will tell you how to say her last name when she speaks. Who will be representing the unincorporated area of San Diego. Leah was appointed to our committee at the last San Diego Community Power Board of Directors meeting. Leah, can you briefly introduce yourself to the committee and members of the public?
Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Nepomuceno. I'm currently a senior high school student in the San Diego unincorporated area, and it's really a pleasure to be serving on this committee. I'm currently a student board member of the San Diego Unified School District, and there I've done a lot of advocacy in terms of climate justice, racial justice, as well as preventing gun violence in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You sound amazing. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the unincorporated area. Represent.
That concludes the special presentations for today. We'll now take up non-agenda public comments. Are there any comments from the public?
There are no hands raised and there was no public comments received beforehand.
Okay, look. Are there any items to be added, withdrawn, or reordered on the agenda from CAC members? No? This is moving pretty good. Regular agenda item number 7. Approval of the CAC minutes. I will turn it over to Victoria to present this item.
Unfortunately, Victoria couldn't make it this evening, so I'm pinch hitting tonight.
Okay,
The meeting minutes were posted online and sent out, and so we're just calling for simple approval from committee members this evening.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from April's meeting.
I second that.
do we have any public comments on this item?
Would you, there's no hand raised and there was no public comment received beforehand. And I apologize, but who was the seconder? I didn't hear. Thank you.
Megan, please call the vote.
Committee member Emerson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Nepomuceno, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Anderson, how do you vote?
I abstain.
Committee member Webb, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Hammond, how do you vote?
I abstain since I did not see them.
Committee member Jans, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Cazares, how do you vote? Aye. Committee member Sclafani, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Chair Castaneda, how do you vote? Aye. And Chair Price, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries with committee member Emerson, committee member Nepomuceno, committee member Webb, committee member Gant, committee member Cazares, committee member Sclafani, Vice Chair Castaneda, and Chair Price voting yes, and committee member Anderson and committee member Hammond abstaining.
Thank you. That motion passed. Regular agenda item. Number 8.
Committee member Hammond has her hand raised.
I just wanted clarification on where we're getting the minutes. I didn't see them emailed and I don't see them online. I don't see the presentation for today's meeting online either. So just wanted to, I know there's been some transition with Victoria no longer being our representative, and I just want to make sure that we have the resources and we can come prepared.
The meeting minutes were posted online as well as sent to committee members. You may want to check your spam folder, council or committee member.
So I'm on the CAC part on the website and I see it says agenda and presentation from last time, but I don't see minutes. It's they're draft minutes because they're not approved. online?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
Any more hands raised?
No.
Okay, now we will move on to item number 8, appointments to the Community Advisory Committee's new programs ad hoc committee. And I'll turn it over to Jen to present.
Thank you, Chair Price, members of the CAC and members of the public who are here today. Today, we are going to be talking about the creation of a new ad hoc committee, the first being our programs committee. So before we dive into what the programs committee is all about, I wanted to give a brief overview of what ad hoc committees are, their function, and their purpose. So per law, ad hoc committees serve a limited purpose, and they are not perpetual, and they are dissolved once their specific task is completed. They're not subject to the Brown Act, and they have fewer than a quorum of the members of the body that they will be serving. In this particular case, the first meeting of the committee will take place before the next CAC meeting on June 8th. The actual meeting dates and times for these ad hoc committees will be determined by the members once they are appointed. The meeting frequency will be expected to be monthly. And with that, the ad hoc committee will also be responsible for a presentation to the larger CAC on a monthly basis, depending on their work. Our plan as part of San Diego Community Power is that the either continuation or dissolution of this ad hoc committee will be discussed at the December CAC meeting. And over the course of that time, the program's ad hoc committee will be to provide meaningful, focused feedback to the board of directors about programmatic offerings and outreach. They'll be working really closely with members of our programs team to be able to do a deep dive on our programmatic offerings, some of which you've heard about as Colin and his team have discussed the community power plan. This is really a great opportunity to make recommendations on outreach opportunities across all of our communities, particularly targeting those who can benefit from these programs. In addition to that, this group will act as the first volunteers for program evaluation committees, such as the Community Clean Energy and Innovation Grant Committee that we saw come just a couple of months ago here. Next slide, please. So how's this going to work tonight? CAC members may nominate themselves or others. These nominations require a second. If 5 or fewer CAC members are nominated, a CAC member can make a motion to appoint all of them on a single slate. A second will be required to proceed with the vote. If there are 6 or more CAC members who are nominated, we are asking that each member will need to be voted on individually. So we're happy to answer any questions. And I'd like to add that one of the key elements of this is that while San Diego Community Power staff will be providing some framework along with the programs, we're going to be looking to you as members of these ad hoc committees to really drive the work plan and prioritize the issues and topics that you deem most important. This is truly an opportunity that we are looking at to insert the community voice into all we do a little bit deeper, particularly in the programs that we know are going to be helping those who need it most. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Chair Price, because I believe that we either have public comment or a committee comment and questions.
Yeah, do we have any public comment on this?
There are no members of the public raising their hand, and there was no comments received beforehand.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Will these meetings be in person or virtual, or is that a decision the committee will make?
The committees may make that decision. They are allowed to be virtual, which I would imagine is convenient, given the fact that the geographic span of our particular agency is quite large.
Yes, Lauren?
I just have a technical question. Can we switch the view on the iPads? Because right now we have the view of the presenter, and for visually, it would be helpful if I could see the slide instead of it being an inch large.
I'd also like to note that committee member Hammond and committee member Anderson both have their hands raised at this time.
Okay. Tara?
Mine was from previously.
Oh,
Lowered it, thank you.
And who else?
Anderson, committee member Anderson.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes, I volunteer for the programs committee. I self-nominate myself.
Okay. Do we have any others that would like to be on this committee? All righty then.
Oh, I'm sorry, wrong one. We're working on.
I would like to self-nominate for the programs committee.
And your name is?
Anna Webb,
Anna Webb. Okay,
member Webb.
yeah. Sir?
And Lawrence Emerson, I would like to self-nominate myself for the program ad hoc committee.
Am I able to nominate someone who's not here as well?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna nominate Matthew for everything.
Yeah, well, Matt,
Said he was gonna just watch.
I know. so we
Matthew
can't
and
think-
Carolyn served on the programs committee formerly. That one's closing and this new one's starting. But you set up to 5.
Right,
So I was thinking of nominating them back, each one, Matthew, member Vasilakis, and also member Schofield back into the committee, but she's not here to say yes or no. I'm not sure how that would work.
and Matthew's not technically, but,
Right.
so can we nominate 3? Can we nominate all 5 and the 2 that aren't here can give us their answer later?
I think that brings,
It's, you guys can vote them in, and
6?
that brings
Yes.
us 6, so we'd have to take a vote.
Oh, wait a minute. So
there's, if it's 6, that's still less than a quorum, so that's fine if there's 6 members on there, but it shouldn't be more than 6 members on the committee.
Okay,
So should we make a motion?
Can I just confirm who is sitting on this committee? So I have committee member Anderson, committee member Webb, committee member Emerson, committee member Vasilakis, and I'm not sure, I got the first name Carolyn, but
Schofield.
Sophia, thank you. Was there a 6th person though? That's 5. That's 5.
I thought I either.
Oh, and then,
I'm sorry, I want to go to the equity.
oh, okay, sorry.
Okay,
Larry, did you also want to be on? Wait, Larry, that's Emerson, yes, okay.
Yes, I
Sorry, I'm learning everyone's name. I apologize if, but yeah, so I have the 5.
yeah, I don't think we've ever met you before.
I've been sitting at the board of director meetings with Kimberly. I've been assisting her. So I'm actually the city clerk for the city of La Mesa, and I assist San Diego.
Once we get done with this, would you like to introduce yourself so that we kind of like know who you are?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you're asking us a lot of questions, man.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the programs committee nominees as a slate.
Second.
I guess you call the roll, Megan?
Yes, I will go ahead and take the roll call vote, and to confirm, it's committee member Anderson, committee member Webb, committee member Emerson, committee members Schofield, and committee member Vasilakis for the programs committee, and that is the motion.
Yes.
Committee member Emerson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Nepomuceno, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Anderson, how do you vote?
Anderson, I.
Committee member Webb, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Hammond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Jans, how do you vote?
I,
Committee member Cazares, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Sclafani, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Chair Castaneda, how do you vote? Aye. And Chair Price, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries with all committee members voting yes.
All right, we'll move on to item number 9 then. Thank you very much. Appointments to the Community Advisory Committee's new Community and Equity Ad Hoc Committee. And I'll turn it over to Jen for an explanation.
Thank you, again, Chair. This is going to work very similarly to the Programs Committee that I just described. And so it will fall under the same rules as the previous ad hoc committee that we discussed. Similarly, the first meeting of this committee will also take place before our next CAC meeting. And those actual meeting dates, times, and locations, whether virtual or in person, will also be determined by those members. The expectation of this ad hoc committee is also to be have folks meet monthly and will be responsible for a presentation to the larger CAC as well. Similarly, the continuation or dissolution of this committee will be discussed at the December CAC meeting, dependent upon the work plan of this particular committee. And so this is a little bit different than our Programs Committee. Similarly, though, it is designed to really provide that meaningful focused feedback to the Board of Directors about a variety of SDCP efforts. Some of the topics that this, next slide, please. Thank you. Some of the portions of this that are going to be critical could be developing a checklist or a framework that can assist the Board of Directors, SDPC staff, and potential development partners in assessing community engagement and outreach efforts long before the power procurement process even comes to SDCP. That way, we are really looking out for making sure that these folks are doing what needs to be done. This committee, I foresee working very closely with our power services team. That way, we are putting together something that is meaningful, while at the same time does not hinder the ability of SDCP to enter into power purchase agreements that will help us get a little bit closer to our goal of reaching 100% clean and renewable power by 2035, while also having 15% of that power coming from local sources. Additionally, this particular ad hoc committee can help us develop a pool of volunteers that can help us significantly expand the outreach efforts, as well as provide deeper educational opportunities to members of our community. So similarly to the last process, the nomination process is going to look absolutely identical. So with that, Chair Price, I will turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. Can you go back to slide 22? Was ever doing the slide? Yeah, so is that in total, that's what the conversation is going to be comprised of?
Ultimately, Chair Price, it will be up to the members of the ad hoc committee to determine the work plan for this particular committee. SDCP staff is helping provide a framework to get us started, but this committee is really stemming from the desire that we've heard from our CAC members to really get a little bit more involved with some of these outreach efforts that have been conducted and that will be conducted as we continue to move forward.
Yeah.
I had a question on that same slide. You mentioned, Jen, that we'll do a presentation to the CAC. I see that we're providing meaningful feedback to the Board of Directors. So is someone from this committee presenting at board meetings? Are we meeting with the board separately? Is it board and staff? How do you see that working? Or is that to be developed by the ad hoc committee?
It can be determined by the ad hoc committee, but it's very similar to the way that this current body provides feedback to the Board of Directors as an advisory board. So some of the votes, for example, and Nick, if I'm going out of turn and talking about an item I shouldn't talk about, please flag it for me. But for example, tonight, one of the items that you will be voting on is whether or not to recommend the community power plan for Board of Director approval. Similarly, action items that come out of these ad hoc committees will be presented to the greater CAC, and this body can determine about whether or not they would like to advance those items to our Board of Directors, or maybe work on them a little bit more before we do that, or even kick them back to the ad hoc committee or table it entirely, dependent upon, of course, what that ad hoc committee determines and then brings forth to this body to provide to the Board of Directors.
Okay. So the process is the ad hoc committees do what they do, then they bring it to us, and then we take it to the board.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any more questions? Any public comments on item number 9?
There are no hands raised and there were no comments received beforehand.
Do we have anybody in the public watching our?
Yes, it shows 16 people
Oh,
watching.
good, good. That's nice to know. So can you call for a vote now? Oh, you call, I'm gonna self-nominate for this because it has the word equity in it. I just feel like I'm the guardian of equity.
I'd like to self-nominate myself as well. I would also like to self-nominate and also nominate David Harris. But if we hit the threshold, I will pull myself away so that just David can count for the city of La Mesa.
I'll self-nominate as well.
That's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I missed one. I apologize. I have Price, Cazares, Harris, Hammond. Who did I miss?
Castañeda.
Castaneda.
My apologies.
Anybody else?
You said Harris, right?
I did, yes.
That's fine, right?
So we'll do the same thing and vote as a slate.
I make a motion that we vote for the committee as a slate for the community advisory equity ad hoc committee.
I second that.
Committee member Emerson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Nepo Museno, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Anderson, how do you vote?
I,
Committee member Webb, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Hammond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Jones, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Cazares, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Sclafani, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Chair Castaneda, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair Price, how do you vote?
All right,
Motion carries with all committee members voting yes.
thank you. Regular agenda item number 10. Recommend to the board adoption of the community power plan. I will now turn it over to Nelson Lomeli to present this item.
Okay, so hi, everyone. Good to see you all. I thought Colin was gonna introduce it, but I think we all know why we're here. We've been talking about the community power plan for the last what seems, I'm actually adding up for well over a year at this point. We've been developing this plan for about 9 to 10 months now, and so we are at the end of the process of developing the plan. And so I wanted to quickly just kind of give you a quick summary of all the work that we've done and where we're at this point for everyone that might be new, as well as for the general public. So the community power plan started with the community needs assessment. So we really engaged our community members to understand what are the priorities, what are the needs, what are the goals within each of our member agencies with each of those communities. So we did that in a number of ways by co-hosting listening sessions with community-based organizations. We did 12 of those listening sessions with 5 community-based organizations. We talked with a lot of different groups to understand what they're hearing from their communities. We held a series of general workshops with the public, as well as workshops that were specifically targeted towards our business community, because we can't forget about them as well. All of that work was then fed into and led to the survey that we launched back at the end of August into September and October. This survey was really about further understanding and digging deep into what are those issues that are most important to our communities. And I'm very proud to say that we received over 2,900 responses from that survey. We actually received a lot more of that, as I mentioned before, but I think it was a really good result from that survey. And that really gave us a ton of important information that was then reported back out to the community. So we wanted to make sure that we were implementing equitable practices with our community and not just leaving them in the dark in terms of like where we were at with the process. And so we held a series of listening sessions with our community-based organizations again to really report back on what are the findings that we had from all of this engagement that we've been doing. And all of that information was then processed into our program market assessment and our prioritization framework to really start to understand what are the program types that we as an organization should be offering that help to meet our organizational priorities and goals, as well as those of our community at large. So through all that process and all that work, we've been updating you all throughout this entire process, including you all in this. We came up with a draft community power plan that we released in March. And that plan was opened for public comment for 30 days. And we received quite a bit of comment on that from a number of organizations. We did a series of presentations to them to really understand and make sure that we were doing our due diligence as well. And here we are now. We are here asking you all for a recommendation to our board of directors to adopt the community power plan. And so if we go to the next slide, I want to present officially what the power plan looks like, what the cover page. I think you all seen it online. But this is my excellent photoshopping skills using PowerPoint. But so this is what we've been working on for the last couple of weeks is to make sure that the plan is just as easy to read, as accessible, as visually appealing, because we want people to access the information that is inside this plan and be able to read it. And so the plan is broken out into different chapters. The first chapter is all about an introduction to who San Diego Community Power is. But the bulk of the plan is focused on the community needs assessment. So that's chapter 2, which is all about describing all the work we did to engage the community and to really get at those needs, priorities, and goals. Chapter 3 is all about the program market assessment. So what is all the work we did to understand what are the existing what is the universe of programs? What are the existing program offerings that we can then potentially help advertise or drive people to enroll in? Chapter 4 is all about the program prioritization framework. So it's all about describing how we approach this plan and making sure that our program recommendations align with the community priorities. Chapter 5 is about the funding sources. So what is currently available from the federal government? What is currently available from the state government? What are funding that our customers can access themselves that we can help drive our customers to versus what is funding that we can potentially apply for and bring into the region. And then lastly, chapter 6 is all about the program type recommendations. We talked at length about those at the last meeting, but there's 13 program types that we recommend on a short-term and on a midterm basis. And I just want to point out the cover pages here. We really try to emphasize different parts of our community and incorporate different our member agencies throughout. So you'll see IB, this beautiful image that really aligned with our color scheme. Same with Encinitas here with that beautiful purple and just there's a couple of images that are missing here from chapter 1 and the executive summary that represent a lot of our of La Mesa and our East County jurisdiction. So I'm really proud of that. I did want to emphasize that within the plan, the final design plan, we do have specific pages dedicated to our communities of concern. So I think we talked last month about our commitment to communities of concern. And so we dedicated a page that and included a picture that captured a little bit of some of our communities of concern. Clearly, it's not all of them. But I think it really goes to show just like how diverse our community is. And so we have a section or a page dedicated to that, as well as a page dedicated to workforce development, because that is an important priority for our organization as part of our foundational documents as well. And it just so happened that the color of the jacket corresponded to the color of the chapter. But just wanted to show that we value this and so we want people to read this to this document. Next slide, please. And so again, talking about the program types that are recommended in chapter 6, we have the short term and the midterm, which are focused on energy awareness and education, application assistance, disadvantaged communities green tariff and our community solar green tariff that we've been talking about, pilot programs, which are going to be coming, it's on the next item we're going to be presenting to you, and then grant programs, of which one we presented to you in the last month as well. And then in the midterm, we're focused on building electrification through appliances with heat pump technology, focus on energy storage to support, and then demand response as well, energy efficiency, and then of course, transportation electrification are all top priorities for us as we go forward. And so in terms of next steps with what happens with the plan, so following the CAC action, which I am hopeful you recommend approval, the board of directors will consider adoption of the community power plan at the end of the month at their May 25th meeting. Pending the adoption, if the board decides to adopt, the final community power plan will be uploaded to our website. It will be available in 3 languages, so English, Spanish, and Tagalog. All will be fully designed, as you saw, along with the survey data, and making that easily accessible for people who want to slice and dice that data and learn more. The community power plan as a strategic document is really going to guide us and guide Colin and I and the programs team and the organization and the selection and development of program offerings going forward. One of them is just the next item 11 on pilot programs. And so I want to emphasize that the community power plan is expected to be, it's a 5-year document, so it is expected to be updated in 5 years' time. That is, from my knowledge, it is the first time that we have built in an update to a document like this. No other CCA has done this so far, where they've committed to updating a document on a consistent basis. So it is, we're not going to let it go stale. This is important work for us. And so we want to make sure that whatever programmatic activity we undertake continues to align with community needs and priorities as well as organizational needs. And then just to wrap up the presentation, I do want to give a special shout out and a special thank you to our CAC members, Carolyn Schofield and Matthew Vasilakis. Thank you, Anna, or committee member Anna, I'm sorry, for noting that earlier. The committee did appoint them to help us throughout this project to make sure that they helped us select the vendor who was working with us, as well as help us with the document and guide us and give us strategic guidance. But I also want to thank all of you for helping us reach out to your communities. You all have done an incredible amount of work for us and helping us make sure that your communities were engaged and reflected throughout this process. And I also want to thank the community itself, because this document wouldn't have been possible without them letting us know, talking, speaking to us, learning about us. And so I'm extremely thankful for that. And then I also wanted to know and give a special shout out to the community-based organizations that we worked with to do the co-hosted listening sessions with, which the logos you see up there, the Chicano Federation, Art Produce, MAC, Casa Familiar, and Project New Village, who were instrumental in getting this done. So I want to just give a special shout out to them and a big thank you to you all. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Price.
Thank you. Nice, colorful presentation. You did a good job. Thank you. Any questions from the public, ma'am?
There are no hands raised and there was no public comment provided beforehand.
Any questions from the, yes, Larry?
Yes, Emerson, and I have a question. It kind of ties into the ad hoc committee as well as I'm looking at page 47, I'm sorry, where that has the short-term program types and the midterm types. And my understanding, we're going to be starting on the short-term programs first. And that ties in with the ad hoc committee work as well. And I think it would be good to, and I'm sure we're going to be meeting with staff, but understanding which staff are more tied to which parts of those short-term programs would be helpful. So when we get together, or maybe even put, have a separate document that shows who is the knowledgeable person on the green tars, who's involved with pilot projects, who's involved with grant programs. It would be good to have that outline. So when we have a question, we know who to talk to.
Yeah, that's excellent feedback. Thank you. I think we can be able to provide that when we have our first meeting at the ad hoc.
And the update is for every 5 years from now on, or just the next 5 years it'll be updated?
At least for the next 5 years. I think I don't know who's going to be in my position. Hopefully I'm still me. And it's all to the committee and the board to decide on the frequency of the update as well.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to say thank you for all of your work that you did on the community power plan. Also want to recognize that I think you got significantly more comments on the community power plan than the city of San Diego actually did on the entire climate action plan update. So that's incredibly impressive. So thank you for that. My question is, with the comments since the draft was posted in March, have there been any significant changes that should be noted?
Yeah, we did provide, it's on the last CAC meeting. We provided a presentation of like the changes that were made. The biggest one being the definition of communities of concern was expanded to include income, low income, and income eligibility in there as well. We did make some edits that were what I call it like administrative edits in terms of like clarifying that a program was funded differently. We did add the grant program section to the short-term programs because we were working on that as well. So there were a little bit of edits, but a lot of those comments were very instrumental for us to kind of just figure out like, oh, that makes sense that this program was funded with these dollars and as opposed to the other way we had wrote it, or to clarify those kinds of things.
I remember that from the last CAC. Just want to make sure there wasn't anything from last month.
Yeah, no, what we presented was what we ended up following the CAC. We ended up calling it final, and that's when we started all the design work to get it done.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So somebody needs to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the board of directors.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. A vote, please.
Committee member Emerson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Nepo Museno, how do you vote? Aye. Committee member Anderson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Webb, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Hammond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Jans, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Cazares, how do you vote?
Aye.
Committee member Sclafani, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Chair Castaneda, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair Price, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries with all committee members voting yes.
Congratulations. And thank you for all that work. Thank you for listening and.
Been an honor,
Yeah,
and I'm glad we got to do this. I wanted to do this for a long time.
Right. Appreciate that. Agenda item number 11. Receive an update on pilot programs. So I will turn it over to Colin Santulli to present.
Thank you, Chair Price.
Welcome.
We'll probably tag team this also. I'll ask Nelson to hang up here with me for any questions when I come up. We heard all the hard work that Nelson just talked about, and we are not waiting to actually implement a lot of that planning and the work that came out of that. So you've heard about the grant programs, and this is another near-term program, which is the pilot projects. We've talked several times about this. I believe last month we brought an overview of the pilot projects. I won't spend time on that, but last month we sought to get pilot project ideas from the advisory committee. We didn't just do that with you all. We were doing the same thing with members of the public through the public comment period, but also with other program implementers, with the private sector. We've been out there trying to hear and listen to see what has been done out in the state and the region and what we can do here locally on a pilot scale. So we can go to the next slide. just to recap, our general categories for potential pilot programs are the same as our midterm program category types that you just heard from Nelson. Building electrification, DERs, energy efficiency, and transportation electrification. Next slide. So in this presentation, we're going to go over a couple concepts that we're continuing to kind of drill into. And I think that this type of presentation will likely be something that shifts over to that ad hoc committee that we just set up, which we're excited about. So we don't have all the answers in this presentation. It is a receive and file, and it's probably one of those conversations that we're going to dig into once we have that ad hoc set up. But we wanted to keep you in line with our thinking, and that's the intent of the presentation today.
Thank you.
All right. So there's a number of concepts that we're considering for BE when it comes to appliances and heat pump technology. We're going to cover a couple now, but you can see the concepts touch on directly installing equipment, providing incentives for equipment after the fact, doing some preparation when it comes to kind of readiness for homes, and then also kind of some creative approaches to loaner programs. We're going to spend time on that one. Next slide. So just going over a couple here. Everyone's heard of heat pumps, but most folks don't know that heat pumps typically require a 240 volt service. And the industry recognizes that most residences don't have 240 volt service readily available. And so they have come up with trying to identify technology to address that. So there is a manufacturer that has 120 volt heat pump water heater out, and it's relatively new. And we want to see if we can incentivize this equipment and see how it works from meeting consumer demand on hot water demand. So a 240 volt hot water heater provides more hot water faster. The 120 volt has less power, and so there's still some questions to be answered there. It's also potentially could be a higher cost up front, but you're saving that electrical cost. So there's some cost benefit analysis to be done there. That's the concept for here that we're kicking around. The next slide, I talked a little bit about at the strategic planning session that the majority of you were at. And this is the idea that when a heat pump goes out, or excuse me, when a water heater goes out, most people are focused on replacing it as fast as they possibly can. They want to have water for their homes. And if you're replacing a gas water heater, unless you happen to have the right electrical setup to put in a heat pump water heater, chances are you're going to replace it with a gas water heater. And the idea here, this is a concept that's being piloted right now in Northern California. So we're testing it here in our local, we would be testing it in the local market. And the idea would be to see if we could provide a temporary loaner, a gas loaner, while give the homeowner some time to think through the electrical upgrades, to schedule in contractors and potentially do permitting work, kind of think if a heat pump water heater is right for them, give them that time, because typically that's one of the biggest barriers. It's not having the time to prepare your home for heat pump water heater and allowing that transition to electrification. And once you water heaters tend to last 15 to 30 years. So that's one home that we have to wait another 30 years before we can think about a conversion. So that's the idea here. It's worked pretty well in Northern California. It's a very small pilot. And so we would look to start this relatively small with a few contractors if we were to get it up off the ground. Lastly, this is another concept that we're trying to address, electrification of equipment. So this specifically is focusing on the stove, and we're trying to reduce emission reductions in the home. Burning that natural gas or methane in the home through the stoves is one of the biggest public health issues that we heard about for an indoor air quality issue when we did our CPP. So identifying ways we can get induction stoves into people's homes is a top priority. Most induction stoves out there require that 240 or 220, 240 power. Most residences don't have that electrical setup in their kitchen. So we have this problem again. We have additionally, there's a lack of existing funding for panel upgrades. So even if a resident wanted to go out and take the time to upgrade their panel to allow them to put in this induction stove, they'd have to do that out of their pocket. So luckily, there is a product out right now. I think there's a couple manufacturers that are testing out a 120 volt stove. And this is not one of those burners that you just put on top of your counter that you see like almost taking camping. This is a full 4-burner stove, or burner quote unquote stove, that should provide the same performance And it's able to do that because it has batteries kind of inside the stove. And it only uses a 120 volt outlet. So you don't have to do any upgrades to the system, but to the electrical system, and you should get the same performance. There's also the potential for the built-in battery to have some demand response, but we would need to test that. But so you save a significant amount of cost savings when it comes to energy upgrades, panel upgrades, installing a 240 outlet. But the system, the actual unit costs more money. So there's some cost effectiveness studies that we need to do there, again, on a small scale, to test out what manufacturers tell us if it does this performance. It tells us it has these savings, and we need to test that in a kind of in the real world outside of their what they're telling us specifically. So that's the idea here behind this, incentivizing this 120 volt induction stove. I should note that stove idea came from one of the advisory committee members, Carolyn.
Schofield.
Yeah, Carolyn Schofield. I think during one of our either through the CPP process or in one of our conversations. So thanks for that idea, Carolyn.
Oh, is
Go
it
for it.
appropriate or are we waiting? I'm sorry, I was just gonna.
It's up to Chair Price.
Sure, go ahead.
We've been playing around with induction stoves at our house. And of course, it's a a countertop.
Yep.
We had to return it twice because it would not get up to the proper heat. It had heat issues. It was like the highest recommended one. So I know there's still a lot of work to be done on induction stoves, but we absolutely love that idea. And as soon as it's ready, we're ready to trigger it ourselves. It's, it just makes sense. And especially with the off-gassing, for natural gas. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have a question along that line about has there been any conversation with housing developers building new houses, and affordable housing and all that kind of stuff, and making sure that this goes in while they're building, as opposed to like they're mandated to put solar on new homes and they're putting like 3 or 4 panels and that's it, right? That's not really doing anything, but they got solar on their roof.
Yeah, man.
Sir?
Mr. Price, can I answer your question?
Okay.
I'm an officer of Sierra Club. I'm in negotiation with about a dozen developers on approving their projects or not approving their projects. And both state law and most municipalities of the county now require that new home construction not have gas available in the home at all. So the short answer to your question is yes.
Thank you. I don't think that answered my whole question, but okay.
The programs too is primarily focused not on new construction at this time, but it is true that most new homes are at a minimum, they're gonna have newer equipment, which is so much more efficient based on requirements in California. We have homes that are 30, 40, 50, 60, and they have sometimes appliances that can be as old, and those will be what we're gonna be targeting the most, is we're targeting homes we can clean up.
Right. So there's going to be an actual outreach for these programs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And these are all concepts, so none of these are solidified. This is where I think in that ad hoc committee, we'll be able to roll up our sleeves and get to work, but yes, they'll all have a lot of outreach.
Cool. Sir?
Yes, thanks. You listed, a number of programs in this category here. And you listed the all electric ready program, but really didn't say more about it. And I'm very interested in that. I don't want to sidetrack your presentation or anything like that, but I'm just wondering if you could give a very quick capsule summary of how that I'm particularly interested. Would this be a program where there is a program to reach out to the contractors who would presumably be the contact person that would then expose customers to an all electric ready program?
Nelson can give a quick overview. We included a number of concepts, and I'm only doing highlights on a few of them, just to kind of give you a flavor of the ones, but we've done deep dives on all of these. We're just in the name of time, but
of course,
please
Yeah, so the all electric readiness audit reports is probably what you're referencing from the earlier slide.
Yes.
What was interesting about that is that actually came out of public comment from the CPP. That I'm again trying to get as many concepts as possible. But the idea there is that similar to how there are energy efficiency or energy efficiency audits or something to figure out like where can we do energy efficiency upgrades, it's applying that concept to going all electric. So people would, the idea is that you would get a report, a homeowner would get a report and say, as an example, your water heater is 10 years old, so it's probably going to go out within the next 5 years. So that would be the next most logical step to upgrade. And so we should get the electrical panel upgrade started and kind of just lead a homeowner to what makes the most sense. So they could look at their HVAC system, heating and ventilation, air conditioning system. I try to minimize my acronym use. But they can look at that and say like, oh, this one is about to go out. So we should probably start to think about how do we electrify it? So that's the idea behind it. And again, we can explore that more in terms of like, what does it realistically look like? Who do we target that? Those are the conversations we can have in the ad hoc.
Thank you.
And excuse me, Webb, is this something that would, that SDCP could do like a rebate to refresh, their equipment or, their household appliances?
Yeah, that's all part of like program like strategy, the work that we would do with the midterm programs is like what are the rebates that currently exist? So like the reports could mention some of that, like the Tech Clean California is offering this much for this water heater or heating system. And so those could all be part of that report. Details of it need to be ironed out and all of that. And so we could do that during the ad hoc.
Thank you.
All right,
Done, sir?
yeah. We're moving on. No, we have a couple more slides.
Okay.
So the next area is the distributed energy resources, and I'll move a little bit quicker through these. So there's a couple areas where we found that there are existing programs where we could draw more money to the region if we can fill some gaps. Next slide, please. The first is being what's called the Disadvantaged Communities Single Family Affordable Solar Home Program, or the DAC-SASH. In short, this is a program that the state offers free rooftop solar to income qualified homes, but they need to have a roof for that solar to go on. And through our research, more than half of the potential eligible customers don't have a roof that works. And so these are the customers who the program's designed for, but the home that they can afford, that they live in, doesn't have a roof that works. If we can step in and provide part, if not all of the roof repair, it brings in that solar to that customer and all the benefits that come with that, all the benefits that come to their, not only their pocketbook, but to us as a region from a renewable standpoint. There's a similar program that has to do with that has to do with residential batteries, the SCHIP program. There's some gaps in that funding where we could be pulling in a lot more to the state, or to the region of that state funding if we can provide a small amount of gap funding. Additionally, back up real quick, that we see smart thermostats, a pretty big gap right now. There are incentives available for CARE and FARA customers, which are needed, actually free thermostats. But outside those CARE, FARA customers, there's not programs necessarily targeting them. And we do know that in our communities of concern, we have a lot of customers who don't necessarily qualify for CARE, FARA, but have needs and are energy burdened. And so we see an opportunity for us to provide incentivize their free equipment and partner with our existing demand response partner, OhmConnect, have them like amplify the benefits of the smart thermostat.
How's the OhmConnect program going?
Yeah, it's going well. We can definitely bring back an update on that. And we're anticipating to kind of ramp up our engagement this coming summer as it starts to warm up.
Cool.
Thanks. So quickly, energy efficiency, there's a lot of opportunity here. A lot of our work in energy efficiency, as a reminder, is going to be done through our what we're hoping will be the San Diego Regional Energy Network when the PUC approves that. But we do want to kind of get a couple ideas up and off the ground now, because it's a long 12 to 18 month approval process. So the first idea, and this is being done right now in Los Angeles, very successful, is the idea that energy literacy at the K through 12 level is always needed. It's a great way to not only reach kids, but reach parents up through the children. There's a program called Kits for Kids that we'd like to mimic down here that provides energy efficiency kits. So you think about a light bulb or a low flow, a faucet, and a couple other energy efficiency items to schools. And they take them home and they install them with an adult, do some education. And then if a classroom can get a certain percentage, 50 or 60% of the students to take that action, then the teacher can be eligible for a grant or something that they can use for the classroom on anything that they need. Very popular in the LA area, and we think that there's nothing like that down here. Next grant that pilot that we're thinking about is specifically focused on small commercial customers. And we think about the market that we're trying to address here is we know that these small business owners are really hard to reach for program participation, and as a result, they're not participating as much as they should be. The state's Department of Food and Agriculture has a grant right now that allows small businesses to get free efficient refrigerators and freezers, and there's a relatively low participation to date. SDG&E, as far as we know, recently closed their small commercial program, and the statewide incentive that is available for this type of equipment offers $50 to $100 a unit, and these units are in the thousands of dollars, so it's barely touching, or it's not impacting decision making there. So the idea here would be there's an option for us as an agency to apply for that state grant on behalf of the customers and then facilitate that equipment upgrade, and where we could have a majority of our actual time and energy funded by a state through the administration. And we have, of course, to commit some of our own time and energy, potentially provide energy audits to those small businesses, provide them the free equipment, more efficient equipment. And then, of course, it's funded by the Department of Food and Agriculture because their goal is to provide opportunities for fresh food in food deserts throughout the state. We see this as an area for us to not only meet some needs for our small businesses, but also the broader community need there as well. And we're actively applying for that grant. It's due in the end of June. And so we would have hopefully good news here by the end of the summer, potentially being able to kick this off as one of our first pilot projects. And last but not least, I'll spin through these fast. A lot of opportunity for transportation electrification. And this is really about identifying like other things where we can make an impact that the state is not currently working in, or SDG&E has a significant number of TE programs. So a couple areas that we're looking at that we'll highlight now. Managed charging, this is something that has been done in many CCAs throughout the state, many other IOUs actually. And the idea here is that we want to, as it says, we want to be able to incentivize when people charge their vehicle, because when you charge their vehicle is almost as important as how frequent or how much you're charging your vehicle. And so we can provide monthly or upfront incentives to shift that behavior. It's a pretty tried and true, considering it's a relatively new technology. It's pretty tried and true. So there's a number of vendors that offer apps and ways that we can interact with them. And so we'd like to get that up and off the ground soon. And next is something that has not been tried before. There's a new program coming to San Diego called the Clean Cars for All. This is a program that's available in other parts of the state, but just now the Air District is launching it. And what it does is it allows you to swap out an older polluting vehicle, highly polluting vehicle for a newer, less polluting vehicle, and ideally, if not a plug-in vehicle, at least a hybrid vehicle. But the majority of the vehicles are plug-in vehicles, and as part of that incentive, it does have a charging element, which is wise for the state to include that. However, the charging element of the charging component is that they'll pay for a hardwired charger in the residence, which is good unless you're a renter and you're less inclined to be able to take advantage of that or really benefit from that if you're going to move. And so this very early concept of the idea of potentially allowing for having us step in and pay for a portable charger and then the 240 that would go with that, because they do sell 240 volt chargers, the same power, that plug into that same outlet that your dryer plugs into instead of having it hardwired. We have some thinking to do on this, but again, we found that when we did all the CPP outreach, renters and residents of multifamily dwelling, they're really being left behind in this transition to BEVs. And so any way we can kind of think creatively about how to make sure they're involved, we're going to give it a good look. Larry.
Yeah, yes, Emerson. So a quick question. I've been chasing the Air Pollution Control District on this Clean Car for All. Did you say they're starting it now?
Yep, they're starting.
This month or next month or?
I think within the next few months, but they have an administrator and the contract.
Within the next few months?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Very good.
Any more questions?
Thank you. Yes, I just I wanted to roll back to the roofs. So, you know, I've had solar many times. I lived off grid for a long time. Anyway, I know they need to face south. So is that the problem with the roofs? Is the roof is a different factory where the solar panels won't face south? Or is it a flat roof? Like a flat roof issue? Where they can't,
Yeah, probably something we should dig into in the ad hoc, but the basic concern is that the roof won't support a solar system. So a
Okay.
contractor goes out there and says, I don't want to be liable for putting a system on this roof. That's the general issue of this.
gotcha, like bad joists underneath.
Or the age of the roof.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna just make a comment related to what Anna just said. Nowadays, they're encouraging people to put battery backup on with their solar systems. And yes, in general, southbound is good for the maximum for out the year. But if you're gonna add energy to your battery, you might want to have panels on the eastward facing, because in the morning comes up, it charges the battery up faster. Yes, but hopefully by the end of, or even in the west side, depends how much you use at your home and what time you use the energy. So yeah, traditional southbound, but now that people are going to be adding batteries, they have to be thinking a little bit differently as how do we charge up that battery faster and use it during the peak time. So not just southbound, but other depending on the house orientation, those things have to be thought out.
Yeah, good feedback. Thank you, Larry.
Chairperson.
Sir,
Yeah,
yes, please.
I just wanted to suggest, I think all of this work on programs is outstanding. Personal opinion, better than the IOUs, better than the third parties. I mean, this is excellent. And as part of that, I would suggest you consider setting aside some amount of budget to do video documentation of case studies. I love the roof replacement program, and that's the type of thing that if you get in early and document on video, you know, you can put it on the news, you can put it on YouTube and blast it out to, you know, everyone in the community to see tangible benefits. Someone doesn't have to be, you know, maybe a climate, you know, believer or a renewable energy advocate, but I can tell you everyone in the neighborhood cares about having a roof that doesn't leak, right? So that's a story for everyone. That's one program. You have others, but just keep in mind, the more you can document that, you know, the pilot program may not take off and cover every roof in San Diego, right? But if you can document that tangible example that you did a good thing for a citizen, you know, that will carry on even as programs change over the years.
Yeah, thank you. Recommendation.
Chair, we do have a hand raised of committee member Anderson, Peter Anderson.
Please.
Yes, a couple quick points. A person may not want to have it on their roof, but they may want it as a patio cover or as a carport cover. So we should entertain that as well. Your list and your presentation is fabulous. There are things I've been advocating for many years. But one thing I did not hear was replacing with propane. I live out in East County, and I'm in fact the unincorporated county representative of this committee. And most people have propane out here, a very, very polluting fuel. So there should be a program, particularly in low-income communities in East County, and there are many, to get people to switch from propane to electric. And that's totally possible. I still have a propane tank, but I basically never use it because I now have an electric water heater, an electric pool heater, and so on. So other than my barbecue, I don't use it at all. So it's very feasible to switch over. And yeah, that should be added to our list.
Good feedback. Thank you.
You might want to consider getting a Traeger for your barbecue because it's excellent. You can get rid of that propane too. Any more questions? Any questions from the community?
There are no hands raised.
We're not required to do a motion on this, right? Just receive and file.
Correct. Thank you.
Just a note, I did send you an email. I'd like to see this presentation on the website so I can look at it in more detail.
Sure, we can distribute it to the advisory committee members and get on the website.
I don't know if it's too big for email or what, but yeah, I'd like to be able to study it a little bit more.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good deal.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 12. Receive an update on public relations.
Yes. Hello, once again, members of the Community Advisory Committee and members of the public. I'm Jen LeBron, the Director of Public Affairs here at San Diego Community Power. So I wanted to provide our monthly update on our efforts as we reach out to the public. So one thing that I wanted to note as we dive in is that we have successfully enrolled customers in National City and the unincorporated areas of San Diego County, bringing us to about 1 million customers throughout our service, easily securing our place as the second largest CCA in California. It was a huge effort from our staff, and Lucas will be telling you a little bit more about all of that shortly, but I couldn't be more proud of the folks at SDCP and the efforts that they put forth to make sure that folks were aware. Additionally, I wanted to add that our paid and earned media efforts, which we discussed previously, had received millions of impressions. However, last time we were here, we were asked about engagement numbers and clicks. And so I wanted to make sure that we brought that information back to us this month, as we are still awaiting some updated figures from April from Civilian, our partners in marketing. So we had more than 15,000 clicks and engagements with our advertisements, including likes and comments on our social media platforms. Some other notable figures that we didn't touch upon last time that we were here were the 5 million impressions from convenience store posters and billboards within the first 30 days of our efforts alone. We will be receiving updated metrics on our engagement efforts next week. So unfortunately, a little too late for this meeting, but we will be presenting on those next month. Next slide, please. One of our goals in April was to have a significant boots on the ground effort to meet our customers where they are. Nearly 100,000 people attended events where we had those engagement efforts since our last CAC meeting. Some of the largest events that we attended were South Bay Earth Day, La Mesa Earth Day, the Avocado Fest in Fallbrook, the inaugural Spring Valley Day, and then a lot of smaller events as well, such as speaking at the North San Diego County Chamber of Commerce. Sony Electronics company invited us to join their Earth Day event, and several library events in the unincorporated areas across San Diego County. Next slide, please. Our CEO, Karen Burns, also participated in a panel for the League of Women Voters, as well as the Uncaged podcast with Brant Breen, which features a variety of executives from a numerous sphere of business influencers, and really brought some attention on a more national and international scale to San Diego Community Power. So now that we, next slide, please. Now that we are out of the bulk, sorry about that, Chris, if you can go back. So now that we are out of the bulk of our enrollment efforts, we are turning our attention to the next phase of San Diego Community Power outreach. As Colin indicated, we're going to be significantly ramping up our efforts to promote programmatic offerings, such as the Home Connect program that Chair Price asked about, and providing things like video support and other promotional opportunities like committee member Scalfani had recommended. Our focus is going to be on continuing education and awareness about what SDCP is and how we serve our communities. And we thank you for your continued support of those efforts and look forward to working with you all in the Community and Equity Ad Hoc Committee in particular to work a little bit closer about how we can be even more effective as we go forward. Thank you very much. And now I can ask Chris to put on that next slide.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's a receive and file update also, I would imagine.
Yes, sir.
And there's no public comment.
No public comment. Thank you. Would you like to, I know this is a weird time to be doing that, but would you like to introduce yourself, young lady?
Sure. My name is Megan Weigelman. I work for the city of La Mesa. I'm their city clerk over there. And I've been actually working with San Diego Community Power since the very first day. I interimed as the city or the board clerk since 2019, and now I'm assisting Kimberly with her role and in other capacities as well, such as the CAC.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
We just never saw you on Zoom.
Yeah, I tended to keep my video off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Receive an update on back office operations. Well, hey, Lucas.
Good evening, Chair Price, members of the Community Advisory Committee. My name is Chris Fuqua. I'm the Director of Data Analytics and Account Services at San Diego Community Power. And I'm here to give you a presentation on where we are in terms of our mass enrollment efforts for phase 4, as well as our participation rates. So as Jen said, I'm very happy and glad to let you know that we have effectively concluded mass enrollment for phase 4 in National City and unincorporated areas of the County of San Diego, specifically as it pertains to our non-net energy metered customers. So I just want to make that point abundantly clear. Mass enrollment for NEM customers is still ongoing. And again, as we've previewed with the CAC members before, our NEM customers, their enrollment into our service coincides with the month of their true up. And this is true. We started mass enrollment in April, and that mass enrollment for NEM customers will go on through March of 2024. So the big phase of non-NEM customers is done, but obviously the monthly NEM enrollment continues. So what does this mean in terms of our participation rates? Can you go back to the previous slide, please? So all things considered, our participation rates are still stellar, again, as a function of all the good work that all of you are putting in, as well as all of our other stakeholders. We are at 96.1%. The sweet spot is 95%. And the breakdown into individual member agencies is in front of you. We are seeing a lot more opt-outs, unfortunately, in the city of Encinitas and the county of San Diego. But again, all things considered, mass enrollment and participation rates are where we want them to be. On to the next slide, please. So this actually tracks the opt-out trends, specifically as it relates to the county of San Diego. And you can clearly see that a lot of our customers are opting out, citing the reason of disliking automatic enrollment. And that is consistent not only in our territory, it's across CCA landscape across the nation. A lot of customers do tend to opt out, citing, hey, I didn't have a say in this. I did not feel like I had a part to play in getting transitioned to CCA service. So, and then in terms of how customers are opting out, specifically for the County of San Diego, we are seeing a lot of customers opting out through the web. And a few of them actually calling into our interactive voice response system, and then quite a few opting out through our contact center representatives at our conference. Moving on to what that looks like for the national city. So on to the next slide. Very similar trends there. Again, dislike being automatically enrolled, opting out primarily through the web, and then with a little bit opting out either through the IVR, which is the interactive voice response system of our contact center, and or through our contact center agents. Now, in terms of when these customers are opting out, we do see a lot more opt-outs when the pre-enrollment mailers go out, particularly the second one, and you can clearly see the trajectory there. And again, the one thing that I definitely would like members of the CAC to be cognizant of, we also are expecting to see a little bit of an uptick in opt-outs once the first round of customer bills go out. So we're keeping a very close eye on it. We're tracking these opt-outs not only at the member agency level, but down to the individual zip codes. And we're feeding that information to Jen and her very able team, to essentially cater very specific messaging to address the concerns of customers and the drivers of why they're opting out. On to the next slide, please. And that actually wraps up the overview for today. Happy to take any questions, comments, or additional feedback.
Questions? AC members, any questions from the public?
There are not hands raised, but we have committee member Hammond.
So thank you for that information. I thought you said Encinitas in the county, we're seeing more high opt-outs, and then you covered the county and National City. Did you say Encinitas?
Yes, so if we go back to the first slide, in terms of the participation rates, you can see City of Encinitas, the participation by accounts is 93.1, and it's more or less the exact same trajectory for the county of San Diego. But in terms of what I captured in terms of where the opt-outs are, that is specific to phase 4.
So Encinitas obviously has been defaulted for a while. Have people more recent and had opted up to Power 100, which might be contributing to a fraction of those opt-outs, but have you been seeing recent Encinitas opt-outs?
No, so the opt-outs in Encinitas are consistent with what we would expect for a member agency across the state that essentially defaults to 100% renewable.
Okay, but not recently.
No.
Okay,
So
how
this
is phrased?
has
Yeah,
always been
okay.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This has always been what?
I'm saying the participation rates for Encinitas have not materially changed every single month that I report to the CAC.
Right.
Larry had a question.
Larry.
Yes, Emerson, you mentioned the call center and who's answering the call center is a question, and then are they staff or the other hired people? And then how many calls are we getting through that call center that when people want to opt out or have questions?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So we do have a dedicated contact center that comprises of 13 dedicated customer service representatives that are trained and well-equipped to answer any customer questions. I highly implore members of the CAC and the public to call our contact center and get that white glove service that we pride ourselves in. In terms of, the volume of calls, as of last week, I believe we were at 42,000. But that's cumulative from when we started call center operations. I think that breaks down on average to about 358 calls, if I remember correctly. And again, all of this information is reported on a monthly basis on the board packet that goes to the board every month.
I just wanted to tag on to that because kind of back in the beginning, and maybe the first few months when I think IB was the first one to roll out, and I had, I don't know, question issue about billing or something, and I can tell you, I haven't talked to anybody anywhere that was nicer and more helpful and fast than the woman I talked to. It was amazing. I was like, okay, we're good to go. Yeah,
Cool.
I recommend anybody call,
Yes, ma'am.
just ask a question.
Thank you. One question is, obviously we saw National Cities at 99.1%, but they haven't gotten their first bill. When is that expected? Like, when do we expect drop off? Hopefully there's none, but I'm sure there will be. When do we kind of expect to see that drop off?
So the first round of bills are actually going out starting this week.
Okay.
And depending on the read cycle that their accounts or the customer is on, we should expect for those bills to continue going out, at least for the first instance, through the first week of June.
Okay.
And so we are keeping a very close eye on the opt-outs there. And again, our contact center is well equipped to answer any questions from the customers. I think one of the biggest question that customers who transition have as it relates to the first bill is the articulation of the PCIA line item, and the PCIA is power charge and difference adjustment. And when there were bundle customers, they didn't see that specific line item called out as a standalone line item in the bill. But all the same, they have been paying for PCIA. It's just that it's embedded in the commodity rate that they've historically paid to SCG&E. Whereas when they transition over to our service, that PCIA is carved out as a standalone line item. And so usually, and again, we're trying to get in front of this to better inform customers that, hey, this is not a separate or additional charge. It's a charge that you've always paid, but you never saw it because it was embedded in your commodity rate. But all things considered, even when you factor in PCIA, we're still offering you a value proposition, right? Our board approved a 3% value proposition, and customers are saving by being on our service while getting a much more superior, much more renewable energy content.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Any more questions?
I would just like to add to that explanation is that the amount of the PCIA that a customer pays is not money that comes back to SDCP. And so you can guess where it does go.
Agreeing with Gary, we do not assess PCIA. That is an assessment that SDG&E levies on customers. And that is true for CCA customers and bundle customers. It's just a way of how they capture it on the bill. That makes it a little bit overwrapped. It makes it seemingly as if it's a CCA specific charge, but in actuality, it isn't. It's just embedded in bundle service, and we've all been paying it as bundle customers. Now you're just visibly seeing it by transitioning over to CCA service.
What a bummer.
Yeah.
Any more questions from the public, ma'am?
There are no hands raised by the public, but Tara has her hand up. I'm assuming it's from her. Okay, there she's down.
Okay. So this is the receive and file update, so we will receive it and file it. Thank you, sir. Hey, Jen, long time no see. How you doing? So update, item number 14, update on our CAC fiscal year 2022-2023 work plan.
Hi.
Hello.
You all know me, since I've been up here a few times. I promise this is the last time you'll be seeing me here tonight. So this is a standing item that we have every month, just to remind members of SDPC staff, the committee itself, and members of the public, some of the key items that this body made as part of its work plan for fiscal year 22 and 23. And so this slide includes an overview of some of those key areas that the CAC carved out. And one of the things that I'm excited about is that with the appointments of everyone to these ad hoc committees and the discussions that we've had today, we can move forward much more aggressively in pushing forward some of these initiatives, including taking a more equitable approach to all that we do, furthering discussions about our power procurement efforts, creating meaningful educational presentations, and promoting community power plant and solar green tariff programs that we'll have coming up. As we discussed last month, we will be bringing an informational item on the equitable, inclusive, and sustainable workforce policy to this committee next month as we continue to gather some data around how that policy has shaped some of our efforts thus far. And so I will keep this brief, but I just wanted to thank you all for the work that you do, and we're looking forward to working with you even closer in the coming months to advance these goals laid out in the work plan. Thank you.
We can receive and file this one. Any comments from the public?
There are no hands raised.
Sure. Oh, Mary.
This is a general question, under education. And maybe I should have also asked it earlier, but I was hearing that in June, there's going to be a presentation on our electric vehicle meeting we have every month, next month, but they were going to talk about the kilowatt hour charge is supposed to go up during the peak time. Is anybody aware of that? Is that just a rumor or is that a fact? And then maybe we should need a presentation on how that's going to affect everybody's, charges.
I believe you're talking about the summer rates. And Lucas, if you wouldn't mind joining me for a brief moment to discuss that, I'd appreciate it greatly.
Sounded pretty significant if that was true.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, good evening, members of the Committee Advisory Committee. So you're absolutely right. Rates are seasonal, right? I mean, we're currently in the winter season. And usually the winter season tend to be a little bit lower than the summer rates. So effective June 1st, we will officially transition out of the winter and into the summer. Summer rates historically are higher for obvious reasons, right? I mean, usage tends to increase in the summer. And for non-residential customers, particularly in terms of the rate design that we have in our region, those customers, or at least some of them, will see a time-related demand charge in the summer that they otherwise don't see in the winter. And so all things considered, what typically occurs is you would see an increase in the bill as a function of the price differential between the two seasons. And all things considered, net throughout the year, the idea is to equalize it, right? Meaning you're gonna have lower rates in the winter because usage is lower, and a higher rate in the summer because usage is higher. All things considered, right, status quo, net impact is neutral or net neutral. That is the idea. And again, fully knowing that that is what we see year in, year out, Jen and her team are putting together a very robust engagement effort to essentially educate our customers in terms of what to expect and in terms of what they can do to essentially reduce their exposure to higher charges. And again, you know, on-peak pricing tends to be higher, right? And so we are, you know, through the OhmConnect partnership and through other messaging in terms of what customers can do to reduce usage during on-peak will be key in customers reducing their high bill exposure in the summer. And I'll let Jen explain and expand on what it is that we'll be doing to essentially equip customers with that information.
So the increase is the generation, not the grid part.
It's a function of both, right? I mean, you do, so all customers are still exposed to transmission and delivery.
Okay, and then, yeah, so that's a little bit of both, but then, so San Diego Community Power has its own rates and for a generation.
Correct.
Is that in step with, or is it different from what San Diego Gas and Electric is going to do for San Diego Gas and Electric customers if they stay with San Diego Gas and Electric versus they go with San Diego Community Power? How is it different?
Oh, in terms of the rate design, it's actually similar. So in terms of the time of use that customers can expect when they transition over to our service, the exact same time of use that they would otherwise be exposed to if they had stayed in bundle service. So the on-peak hours are from 4 to 9, that doesn't change. And in terms of, you know, the seasonality between what is defined as winter and what is defined as summer, that doesn't change either. In other words, what we've tried to do, especially as we've folded customers into our service, is to minimize any sort of differences in terms of what they can expect from bundle service and moving over to CCA service. Because we know that a lot of what customers ask us is, hey, by me moving over to your service, what is changing, right? In terms of what I should expect from a billing perspective, you know, from a time of use perspective, from a bill determinant perspective, and nothing changed. In terms of what, you know, what they can expect is the exact same rate design, but obviously a value proposition for a much more superior product, right? That is much more renewable, and that's the only thing that changed. And obviously, in terms of the bill presentment, similar to what I articulated earlier, you know, just that the fact that now, whereas before as a bundle customer, right, what you saw was electric delivery and transmission, and then the generation that was provided by SDG&E. Now you're just going to see, you know, we do have a page that says San Diego Community Power, and we are providing that generation, and the customers can expect to see that play out on the bill.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And just FYI to everybody, at our next electric vehicle meeting at Balboa Park Auto Museum on June the 14th, we will be presenting it from an EV perspective. We'll have a presenter go over the same issue for people interested to come. It's open to the public.
Thank you.
At 6 o'clock in the evening.
Awesome. And we do have awesome EV rates on our site.
Yes, ma'am.
I did just want to make a quick comment to the billing as well. In case anyone didn't know, because I just called SDG&E to talk to them about this. It costs more to heat your house than it does to cool your house as well. So for me, for example, I'm fully electrified and my bills are higher during the winter when I need to turn on my heater just to take the chill off the house than they are to cool down my house in the evenings with both. So just like something to note. And also most, if not everyone in San Diego has heating, but not everyone has air. So that'll also make a difference. So some people, not everyone, but some people might actually see their bills go down because it's warmer outside.
That's an excellent point.
Thank you.
And, you know, in addition to that, I think a lot of our customers have gas for heating. And so usually what we see in the winter is your gas bill increases because of the heating needs. I live in this county. It is very hot in the summer and it's very cold in the winter, right? And so I do see that. And my neighbors ask me all sorts of questions with regards to what they should do to reduce the bill exposure. So a number of things, and again, we're cognizant of that, and we will be equipping customers with the information to essentially reduce their high bill exposure in the summer.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to ask a quick question about the time of day. I understood that as of April 1st, they were extending the low rate overnight for another extra couple of hours in the morning. I can't recall what that was to. So that kind of, you know, extended that, and I didn't know if it was going to continue. I know 4 to 9 is peak. And then from, I think it was to 8 a.m. overnight, and then it changed to 10. Anyway, and then from that time on to 4 is kind of a medium rate, and then 4 to 9, and then after 9 goes to overnight rates. And I just wanted to see if that was going to stay the same through the summer.
No, so I think what you're referring to is a special allowance, I think for March and April specifically, that doesn't essentially extend into the summer.
I see.
Yeah. And on our side, in terms of our rate design, we do mirror that very same time of use articulation that customers can expect from the bundle perspective.
Thank you.
Will that ever change, or do we see that changing?
I think there are a number of things in the horizon in terms of the rate design. There are multiple proceedings that we're keeping track of, right? I mean, right now in the state, there is a move towards real-time pricing. There's actually an open proceeding that we're party to. It's called the RTP proceeding, if you're interested in looking at it. And essentially what that means when we get to that world is the pricing is no longer going to be based on time of use, right? The current setup that we have now is essentially going to be driven by grid economics that change on an hourly basis. And so we're not there yet. There's still quite a few hurdles for us to navigate. But yeah, the rate design and the rate landscape probably would look a little different.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
Well, it depends.
On
On a variety of things, right? I mean, I think, you know, there are a number of technologies out there, including battery storage, that essentially can help. But yes, I mean, you know, we've looked at specific studies done in other states that have real-time pricing, particularly in the residential space. Illinois actually has it. And there hasn't been a lot of adoption in terms of what they've offered customers, because it's voluntary pick, right? You elect to go RTP or real-time pricing, and the participation rates there have been, you know, less than stellar based on the empirical data set. But you know, yeah, I mean, it's something that's being contemplated at the CPUC. And there are multiple proceedings essentially driving the state towards that direction.
Okay. Well, thank you. Questions? Any more questions? And now we can move on. Are there any discussion of potential items for the board of director meetings or director comments? And thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
No questions, no comments, no concerns?
I do, real quick.
Oh,
So last meeting, I had suggested that the board discuss net metering. There's a lot of confusion happening. I'd emailed with Jen a little bit, but Jen, I'm not sure if you're here, if you could. I understand the agenda item. I guess my request is for them to discuss it, but I'm not sure what was discussed at the last meeting or where they're at in terms of understanding the impacts of net metering 3.0 on customers today and ensuring the solar industry is prepared to be properly modeling systems. So San Diegans know what they're actually signing up for and aren't going to see sticker shock with their bills, get upset with SDCP and have a negative experience with clean energy.
Thank you, committee member. I appreciate those comments. We are going to be bringing forth an informational item, but currently we ourselves are awaiting some additional information about how this is going to affect our customers. And so we will be happy to bring this as an informational item, not just to the board of directors, but to this body as well, when we have the information available to provide you with a robust discussion about what kind of impact this is going to have.
Thank you. So last month I'd made the recommendation. You said it would be an informational item. It sounds like that was not one at their last board meeting.
No, it was not. And
Okay.
as I said, we will be bringing it forth as soon as we have information, because right now we're trying to gather some of this ourselves in terms of what this means for not just for our customers, but for our organization as well.
Okay, so great. Well, that's my recommendation, is to let them know the urgency behind figuring it out.
Thank you for that feedback.
thank you.
Do we need a vote on that?
Do we need to vote on that, Tara? As
I
a
don't-
committee?
It's not agendized.
It's not, right, okay. I didn't mean to cause a panic over here on the right side. Okay, everybody just calm down. Now we'll move on to item 15. I think that was item 15. Whoa, this brings us to the end of our agenda. I appreciate everyone's participation today. I appreciate the professionalism of all the departments that presented to us. It was really timely and effective. Really like the color scheme, Nelson. That was, wow. And I'd like to adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting on June 8th.
Chair Price, there's item 16 committee member announcements.
Oh. Okay.
That was a good wrap up.
Oh, man, I had that written down.
Give it again, yeah. Twice as good as.
Okay, item 16 says nobody agreed we were adjourning. Committee member announcement.
Really?
Go ahead, sir.
So last month, I and Matthew were appointed to the Community Clean Energy Innovation Grants Proposal Review.
Say that one more time, please.
You would make me do that. Community Clean Energy Innovation Grants Program.
Okay.
Which is being administered by the San Diego Foundation. And we were presented, or the program accepted 14 proposals. And speaking for myself, and so proposals were split up between Matthew, me, and the other people in the evaluation of the grants. So I received 7. I would say that I wish I could give money to all 7 that I read. Obviously had, I would say, were maybe better organized, and you could easily imagine better chance of success, things like that. But we saw some very excellent proposals, and I was just amazed at the subjects that were addressed, the differences, the different possibilities. And so the next thing that happens in the program is that there is a meeting on Monday where we will finally hammer out what the winning proposals essentially are. There will probably be 6 or 7.
And what is the average grant amount?
Well, the program
Is this with that $100 million that was given?
No, this is the $300,000 that was earmarked for this program. And each proposal was limited to a maximum of $45,000. So that, that's like 6 and a fraction.
Right.
Of the proposals I saw, most of them were within $2,000 or $3,000 of the 45,000. So, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And so I assume that at next CAC meeting, you'll be hearing about what the proposals that got accepted are.
Cool. Thank you. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Since we didn't finish, there's a couple things that I think members of this committee and also anyone listening in might be interested in. City of San Diego is having a Reach Code Town Hall via Zoom next Tuesday, the 16th at 11:30 a.m. that anyone can participate in. County of San Diego is doing their Climate Action Plan Spring Workshop virtually at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, May 24th. And then I also just want to recognize, I think we are one of the only, if not the only, committees in the county that has 2 Gen Z women of color sitting on it. So just wanted to recognize that as it's a really big step for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So.
And Gen Z is what? Because I'm old. Gen 8.
We're under millennial.
Oh,
We're
okay.
the next one down.
So you were born after the
1996.
1996 and later. So I'm like an old version and she's a younger version.
You're an elder Gen Z.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Yes, Larry.
So just again, everybody is welcome to come to electric vehicle meetings. The last meeting we just had on Wednesday was very excellent. And by the way, there's usually pizza there, so you can come and have some pizza.
That's important.
But this, people are confused about how do I plug in my electric car? There's 120, 240, and then there's a bunch of different quick chargers, and then some cars can charge faster than other cars. Whereas gasoline, you just, pump gas in, so at first it's confusing. So the presentation we had last time was excellent. It's a company called ChargeWay. And it makes it simple with color code for people who are just getting into electric vehicles. And they make it simple, and you can select your vehicle and put, what it just makes it the color code and the mapping, and they have nationwide coverage. So it really makes it a lot easier. So our meetings are very informative. And again, the next meeting was, I said, the 14th, and the second Wednesday of the month, 6 o'clock. Get there a little bit early and mingle and talk with the other owners. You learn a lot by talking to them. And just FYI, I have 2 friends who just recently went out and bought vehicles, and one of them qualified for getting a used vehicle, an extra $4,000 tax credit.
Mm-hmm.
How did they do that? Come to our meetings or talk to EV owners, you'll find out.
I need a battery for a 2011 Leaf.
I know.
That lowrider.
I'm cranking this thing up like. I will be, I don't know what I'm going to be speaking on a panel at the CCA annual event next week on equity and a bunch of other stuff. So it should be pretty interesting, just being with other CCAs, right? And mingling with them, and hopefully meet other people from other CCAs at other, hopefully meet other CAC members from other CCAs.
There you go.
At the thing. That messed me
Where is
up.
it going to be?
It's going to be downtown convention.
Oh,
center.
here in San Diego.
Yes, San Diego this year. So it should be pretty nice.
Is that open for anybody or just?
No, I
to
think
be
it's,
invited?
it's pretty costly.
Oh,
I'm speaking, so I get free peanuts and pizza. But if you could go, I mean, it would be nice. I don't know how that would work. It
It
might be,
looks like it is free of the public, but $750 for a ticket.
yeah, yeah, I can teach you how to get in like that.
okay.
I had one quick comment, but also idea, we should do a CAC statewide conference.
Yes, we should. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Can I make my quick announcement?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's an annual lobby day in Sacramento for solar, and CED Green Tech San Diego, it's an electrical distributor. They have given my organization, Hammond Climate Solutions Foundation, funds to send local activists and students to Sacramento for this June 6th lobby day. It's an all-day event in Sacramento, so most people will fly up in the morning, fly back in the evening, but we have the sponsorships available to cover travel costs. There's usually food given up there. So if anyone is interested, feel free to reach out to me. And we'd love to help get more San Diegan voices heard in Sacramento. My email, it's Tara@hcs.foundation. HCS Hammond Climate Solutions. Yeah, so feel free to reach out if anyone wants to attend. And now back to you, Chair Price, to rephrase your great closing.
No, I'm not gonna say it again. You can just go now. We're adjourned now.
7:29.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.